Hi, let's solve this assumption question. Climate researchers examined sediments in a cave in region Z. So we are talking about a region Z in which there's a cave and these climate researchers examined sediments in this cave. All right. Which now has a temperate climate. So this is about region Z. Region Z now has a temperate climate. Okay. And it is about now. Currently, it has this kind of climate. Okay. And they found Arctic lemming bones in a buried layer corresponding to about 14,000 BC. So while this examination was being done, they found bones of Arctic lemming, and these bones are from around 14,000 BC. Okay, let's read further. Arctic lemmings are typical of Arctic climates. So Arctic lemmings are usually found in the Arctic climate and are unlikely to have changed their adaptation for temperature over a period as short as 16,000 years. So this 16,000 years refers to the time period between 14,000 BC and today. So let me just draw this information. Let's take a note of the given information here. Okay, so if we draw this information on a timeline, this is, let's say, 14,000 BC, and this is today. So this examination has been done, and Arctic lemming bones have been found in a cave in region Z. Now, region Z has temperature now, temperate climate. So it has temperate climate, and Arctic lemmings find Arctic climate suitable now. This information has been given to us. Along with this, it is saying that over these approximately 16,000 years, it is unlikely that Arctic lemmings have changed their climate preference. What does that mean? The clear inference is that Arctic lemming preferred Arctic climate around this time period also. So around 14,000 BC also, Arctic lemmings preferred Arctic climate only. This is the information that we have till now. Let's read further now. Okay. So we have the conclusion now. Region Z probably had an Arctic climate around 14,000 BC. So the conclusion that has been made here is regarding the climate of region Z around 14,000 BC, and it is being said that most likely it had, sorry, let me just write it again. So yeah, the conclusion has been made regarding the temperature, the climate of region Z, and it has been concluded that most likely it had Arctic climate around 14,000 BC. So this is the information that has been given to us. Based on these bones that have been found and the temperature preference for Arctic lemming now, it has been concluded that most likely the temperature of that region was Arctic earlier, because Arctic lemming most likely have not changed their temperature preference. And the temperature of region Z currently is temperate. All right. So we need to find an assumption here. So before going to the answer choices, let's just think about it, that what can be the possible answers here. Let's first understand the scenarios in which the conclusion can fail. That is, the scenarios in which it will be incorrect to conclude that region Z had Arctic climate around 14,000 BC. So let me just write it down. We need to find the scenarios in which conclusion will break, which means that it will be incorrect to conclude that region Z had Arctic climate around 14,000 BC, given this information. So let's consider some scenarios. The first scenario, let's see. Now, since the conclusion says that the region had Arctic climate and now it has temperate climate, this is a fact given to us that the region has temperate climate now. So this is only possible if this temperature change is possible, right? If such a temperature change is not possible from Arctic climate to temperate climate over this period, If such a temperature change is not possible, then our conclusion will break. So our first assumption can be that such a temperature change is possible, right? And let me just move it here for clarity. Yeah, so this is our first assumption. Now, let's consider another scenario in which the conclusion can break. So, what if the Arctic lemmings arrived here in region Z, right? Around 14,000 BC, Arctic lemming arrived here in region Z and could not survive because of the temperature, because of the climate. They could not survive the climate of region Z. In that case also, it will be incorrect to say that the climate was actually the suitable one, right? So in that case also our conclusion will break. So our second assumption can be, and I should have written that in green color maybe, but yeah, the second assumption can be that the climate of region Z around 14,000 BC was suitable for Arctic lemmings, right? This can be a second assumption. Let's consider another scenario, a third scenario. Now these bones have been found in region Z, right? And we know that these bones belong to Arctic lemming. However, what if these bones came from somewhere else? Let's say in a flood, these bones came from somewhere else. These bones do not, what if these bones do not belong to Arctic lemmings that lived in region Z? In that case also our conclusion will break, because in that case the bones came from somewhere else. The temperature does not have to be Arctic, right? So our conclusion will fail. So our third assumption can be that Arctic lemmings stayed, third assumption can be Arctic lemmings stayed in region Z around 14,000 BC. With these assumptions, we can proceed to answer choice analysis. Choice A. Arctic lemmings were around 14,000 BC, well adapted to the climate of the region where their bones were found, where the bones were found. Okay, so in short, it is saying that Arctic lemmings around 14,000 BC were well adapted to the climate of, let's simplify it, of region Z. In other words, the climate of region Z around 14,000 BC was suitable for Arctic lemmings. Now, is it not same as our pre-thought assumption number 2? Yes, it is a reworded version of our pre-thought assumption 2, and we already understand why this is a correct assumption. So, option A is actually the correct answer choice. Let's move to the second choice, choice B. Choice B. Adjacent layers did not contain bones of Arctic lemmings. So we know that the bones were found in a layer. Now, whether the adjacent layers contain the bones of Arctic lemmings or not is not relevant, right? The bones have been found in one layer, and that is enough to, make that to indicate that Arctic lemmings were there in region Z at that around that time. So it is enough to indicate their presence, and so choice B is actually not relevant. It is incorrect. Choice C, a very interesting choice and the most popular incorrect answer choice. Let's read it. Temperature shifts between Arctic and the temperate climate. So it is talking about the temperature changes that have been mentioned in the passage between Arctic and temperate climates are common over the long term. Now, is it similar to our pre-thought assumption number 1? It is similar, but it is not the same. Why? Because we are saying that such a temperature is possible. This choice is saying that such a change is common. Now, is it a must? Is it a must that such temperature changes should be common? The answer is no. Even if such a temperature change is rare and it took place in the situation that has been described in the argument, our conclusion will hold true. So we do not need such temperature changes to be common, such climate changes to be common. And therefore, this choice is not a must be true and hence is incorrect. So you can see how just one word can change the meaning, can make a choice incorrect here. This one word. Let's move to the next choice now. Choice D, another very tempting choice. Let's read it. No bones of warm weather animals from any period were found in nearby caves in region Z. Now, if you selected this choice, you would have thought that yes, this choice supports the conclusion that no warm weather animal bones were found. So most likely the region Z had Arctic climate. However, one thing is, yes, it talks about no warm weather animal bones, and this is from any period. So let's see if it is a must be true. It supports the conclusion, but is it a must be true? Let's see. Let's negate choice D. What will be the negated choice D? That bones of warm weather animals from some period were found in, let's say, region Z. Okay. Now, in order to make it even simpler to understand, let's take some time period. Let's say 8,000 BC, right? So let me just change this negative statement that bones of warm weather animals from 8,000 BC were found in region Z. Does that break the conclusion? Does it break the conclusion? Does it make you believe that yes, the conclusion is incorrect? The Arctic, the region Z would not have had Arctic climate in 14,000 BC? No, it does not break the conclusion. Even if there's no warm weather animal bone from any other period, still the conclusion, even if any such bone is found, even if this choice is negated, it will not break the conclusion, and therefore choice D is also not must be true. So you can see how this tempting choice was made, which supports the conclusion, and immediately this warm weather animal phrase catches your eye that okay, this is something that that is in line with the conclusion, so it can be the correct answer choice, but it is not, because it is not a must be true, and therefore it is incorrect. Let's move to the last answer choice. Choice E. The bones were from a species of lemming. Which species? That was probably not well adapted for survival. Okay, where? In the region where their bones were found. So basically in region Z. So choice E is saying that these bones that have been found, they were from a species of lemming that was probably not well adapted for survival in region Z. So essentially this choice is saying that the climate of region Z around 14,000 BC was not suitable for this species of lemming, right? So this choice actually goes against our assumption number 2, and it goes against the conclusion, and therefore it is not the correct answer choice. It does not support the conclusion. So this is how we can easily solve this question. Hope that was helpful. Happy learning.